Good evening. It being 5:30 on April 6th, I'll call to order this meeting of the Shelburne Select Board. We have a lot of appointments tonight and one public hearing. We have a quorum with Rod and myself, so we will begin with review and acceptance of the minutes of our March 23rd meeting. Rod, any comments, questions, changes?
No, I was good with them.
Okay. I did find one change that I would like to offer before as an amendment to how they were presented. It's under correspondence on the last page. The currently the Lieutenant Governor line, the first text reads, the town has been awarded a grant of $140,000. I would like to request that we strike the words town has been awarded a, so that it reads the grant of 140,000 and then continue with this text. Will be shared by 15 towns who joined in the grant application through the Franklin Regional Council of Governments. So we were the lead. Terry took the incentive to be the lead in the grant application, and that's what confused our minutes person apparently, and my bad. So to be clear, the grant is 140,000. It was applied for through the Council of Governments, and 15 towns will be participating. Would you like me to read that again, Terry?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Perfect. Andrew has joined us. We're doing minutes. Have you, I don't know if you caught, I requested a change on the clarification on the comments, correspondence section for the grant. It was stated basically in a nutshell that we received 140,000 when in fact we were the lead of 140,000 grant, and 15 towns who jointly applied for it through the Council of Governments will be sharing that amount. So I made an amendment suggestion to clarify that fact. Otherwise, Rod is good with it as is.
I'm
Anything?
happy to second a motion to accept as amended.
I think
At the-
we haven't had a motion to do
Oh,
that.
well, then I will make that motion.
I will second as amended.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to accept the minutes as supplied and as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the matter to a vote. Andrew?
Aye.
And Rod?
Aye.
And I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. We have, as I said, appointments starting at 5:45 this evening with one public hearing, which will start at the appropriate time of 6:30. Until then, let's start with liaison reports. Rod, anything for us this evening?
Um, the only thing I have is I was in contact with Jeff, our road boss, pretty early Wednesday morning to get this road, Old Greenfield Road closed due to Greenfield's end. But other than that, that's all I have.
Very good. Andrew?
Yeah, I did meet with Jeff this morning. We talked about Old Greenfield Road, and he's been in contact with the Highway Department
Again.
uh, lead down in Greenfield. The damage to the road occurred in the Greenfield section
Yep.
of Old Greenfield Road, and they were initially talking about closing it entirely on both ends, but the fire departments wanted access, so the Jersey barriers are placed in such a way that they can get in and out if needed, and the residents in those sections can get out as well. So that's where things are at the moment. And the other updates from from Jeff. He says that they're putting summer tires on the trucks. Joe Fink has been picking up sand in the rural parts with the machine, and he'll be in the village next week. Steve and Ray are using up vacation time this month, and the we talked about the Dragon Brook Road next week. Last time won't be available. It won't. The DOT will not have drawings until 2027. So he's looking at ways to move ahead with our grant writer in the meantime, and is proposing to go in for a MassWorks grant for 1.7 miles of South Shelburne Road on the paved section. There's a June deadline there. Since George Sinister and Rick Grant have both resigned, we're looking at advertising for summer help. We have no backup for the transfer station. Um, and he's continuing to move ahead on the full depth reclamation on Hawks Road, which will be done by All States Asphalt and Warner Brothers, starting in May. Will last for about a month, and he's gonna get going to the Concom next week for that. And we did also talk about ways to get more plowing help. I don't know, Terry, did you see my email about that?
No. When did you send it after 4 o'clock?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I have not seen it.
okay. Um, just had some thoughts about whether or not to invest in CDL education for somebody who's been plowing for us but doesn't have a CDL. And I sent Terry a sort of sketch of how we might go about that, since that's a somewhat unusual thing. But we also don't have we have a declining pool of willing local helpers who have skills and interest in highway work. So
When Jeff approached me about that last week, I told him that we don't sponsor our police officers in the academy, so I thought it would be a hard sell with the board, but
right.
that's
Well, the
entirely.
email I sent you had a sort of hybrid proposal of how we might loan him the money and then have him pay it back, or and then pay some of it back in lieu of raises, if he, stays on for several years, and if he doesn't, then he pays us back.
This is not a current employee. This is contracted.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unusual. Well, obviously this is all the information we have on it. We should put this forward at a future meeting when we have the details that you had sent apparently late this afternoon.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of brainstorming with Jeff, and then shared some ideas with Terry to say, is that something we want to think about as a strategy for bringing up some people who are beginning to work with us but don't have all the credentials they need.
Hmm.
So
Not being employees, first thing that comes to my mind is if we did that, then they're open to work for any town. And we foot the bill. But again, we
well, no, you'd have a clawback provision there if they leave us, but no, that would be and also my idea was that it would be predicated on him working either part-time or full-time for us, while he's in the process of earning the credentials and stuff.
okay. Well, let's
So
take a look at that for our next meeting. Well, not our literal next meeting, our next
yeah,
regular meeting.
yeah.
Rod, are you the phone number that's on mute so
I
that you
am.
hear us?
My computer keeps freezing, so I'm covering my bases.
Okay, that happened to the last one, so I thought that might.
Correct.
Just
Yep.
wanted to make sure. Terrific. Any other liaison information, Andrew?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Terry, do you have any?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. I do have one that's come to me through my liaison role that I'd like to run by since we got a good 5 minutes before our first appointment. Um, we received a letter. I think my fellow select board members have seen it from Phil Pless, who is the manager of the condos at the potholes. And the request was to uh, put up a sign about trespass and condo property and so on for people that apparently are jumping the gate, jumping the fence, going down the stairs over condo property to access the potholes. Plus, there um, there are flower pots and things on the ledge as you go down it that they say there's been vandalism on. So we ran this I ran this by the chief in my role as liaison for his input. First of all, though, as soon as I got the letter, I said, no, there's a sign there already. So I shot up there, and there used to be a sign because the screws are still there. But apparently they decided to rip it off. So as they went down and jumped the fence, there's no sign there telling them not to. I'm sure that was the mindset. But so the chief responds that he fully supports replacing the sign. He would recommend that it would resemble the town's looking to post a clear no trespassing sign behind that gate is a private condo land, no public easement or right of way down to the glacial potholes. He mentioned that they have had folks hopping the fence, risking the fall or swift water or worse. Um, Legally, it's trespass, and if someone gets hurt, the town could face claims since the deck is ours. Posting the sign shuts down any implied access argument and cuts liability and backs up enforcement if we need to respond. So a large visible sign that covers that base legally for them is recommended by he and myself. And I would leave it to the chief to work out the details and uh, do it through our highway department with our highway superintendent, Jeff, to get a sign printed and put back up. Any thoughts or comments on that? Any motion to do so?
Make a motion, we reinstall the new sign down there.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the matter to a vote. Rod?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
And I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Thank you very much. We'll inform Mr. Pless that we're taking action on that and get the chief to square away the proper wording to protect the town and get the highway department to create that sign. Has our first appointment joined us yet? I don't see them.
No.
Okay. Well, I'll preface it while we wait. I'm sure they'll be on in a moment. This first appointment at 5:45 is Fred Vore, Board of Health Chairman, about the proposed tobacco regulation updates. And we received a couple of, or rather, an overview page in our packets last week. Today, we received another document of key decisions this morning that Terry sent around, apparently had gotten sent the end of last week or over the weekend, with discussion about why they think it's appropriate and so on. The ask, I guess, the decision is whether to adopt the nicotine-free generation regulation or keep the legal sales at age 21, which is the statewide minimum. The nicotine-free generation, if in a nutshell, it progresses the age bracket so that people born after a certain date would end up where they're not be able to purchase cigarettes or nicotine uh, uh, devices, I guess you could say, in Shelburne. Um, I will say the Board of Health is independent, doesn't need select board approval to make changes, but they brought this forward to us, as I understand, to kind of test the waters of what we as a select board thought about it. As I say, you saw the packet last week that we got, which included their overview, and I'm open to hear your comments.
I'm not currently in favor of the generation free approach. I think it's overly complex, it's open to legal challenge, and the health department, I think, has its hands full trying to streamline and make easier other health regulations that they're currently struggling with. So I don't recommend them adding more complications to their plate.
And Rod, any comments or thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just the opposite of Andrew. I'm in favor of this. Um, with all the cancers and stuff going on, and it just seems to be a good move to do. I know other area towns are doing it, and to me, it just makes sense.
Um, the nicotine I'm not sure if other towns are.
I know Amherst and Northampton were
Yeah,
at least researching it.
okay. Um, my take on it is um, we're a free country, and when you're 21, you ought to be able to do what you want. um,
Is
you
that?
you have every town I'm aware of surrounding us that has it available. So it'd be a matter of driving 10 minutes to buy a pack of cigarettes if they're that foolish. I don't support smoking for sure. But to make a complicated generational um, approach this way just seems overkill to me. Despite the fact that I agree with you, Rod, um, cigarettes are not good. But
No, they're not.
it's a freedom of choice when you're legal to do it. We do have businesses, three, I believe, that currently sell cigarettes in town. Their proposal says that it wouldn't affect those already established, but it goes further and gets more complicated with how many could get a license to sell them in town, how close they can be to the school, things like that. It just continues. The more I read, the more overreach it feels to me. So again, they they don't need our permission. They don't need a vote from us. They just wanted to hear some sounding board information. Did you get a chance to see the second one that was sent out this morning that went into depth on this?
I didn't know.
You did acknowledge it.
Oh, okay. Yes, I did then. Yeah, I'm just
The header is key decisions for updating.
okay. Yes, I did see that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a hold of Fred through another Board of Health member, but I'm not having much luck.
We've probably accomplished what they wanted anyway, which is to get a reading of what we thought about it. So there's there's a variety of opinions.
There is.
Well, they had a number of different regulatory uh, aims in they had four different things there in their detailed thing. The first one was the nicotine-free generation, which I was not convinced that uh, it seemed overly complicated in terms of from a regulatory point of view and if they're going to grandfather the three places that sell this stuff, then the chances of them being effective seem small. Um, the nicotine pouch thing, I like that. even less, just as little as the smoking, but um, in terms of the restriction options that they're proposing, again, whether they can successfully regulate those is a question that I have. And the third one is tobacco sales permits, location restriction and number. That seems the easiest one to implement. And I have no objection to having a limited number of people with permits to sell tobacco products. So I'm in favor of number three. Um, and the suspension period for sales to minors um, also seemed like just a relatively straightforward set a limit and one that makes sense to you and to the store owners, which is what they're proposing. So I'm kind of in favor of three and four and not so keen on one and two. And again, not because I disagree with you, Rod, on the aim, but just that I don't see these regulatory approaches being all that effective in reaching that aim.
Understood.
Um, I agree on all points you've made, Andrew, on that. Three and four um, don't seem like they'd be difficult to enforce, that they maybe have some value. Doesn't hurt our existing people selling them. The first two seem like good luck trying to enforce those, and what a nightmare that would be to try and decide what the minimum age would be from 21 to which group would be age 22 and which group would be age 23. It seems like, man, that's a boatload to chew off when we sell marijuana on almost every corner. Not in Shelburne. That didn't happen, but very readily available. And uh, so I agree with you, Andrew, and I'm sure they'll hear a summation of our thoughts on it, which was their goal of bringing it before us tonight. I still don't see Fred or anybody. No response, Terry.
I sent him the link earlier this week, and he needs the link again. So let
Oh,
me send it to him.
great. We've
All
got a
right.
minute. Looking at the four things, Rod, um, I know I set this up discussing basically the free nicotine-free generation.
Uh-huh.
What did you think on the other three?
Um, Now that I've heard you guys talk about it, the first two, you swayed me. I following your thinking.
And the last two,
The last two, yeah, I'm in favor of
the last two? Okay,
yes, yeah,
great. Well, if Fred gets the link and can get on,
yep.
we will give him that thumbnail as we approach our next appointment.
I guess it's good to discuss things.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, while we're on the subject of the health department, I don't need to discuss it this evening because it's not on the agenda, but I think it would be helpful to review the process of implementing new guidelines like uh, the home-based Airbnb regulations that we put in place that seem like very much to be a work in progress and with a lot of contradictions emerging between the three bodies that are regulating those owner-occupied Airbnbs. And so I think there's some review and better understanding of when we pass a bylaw, how does it get implemented and who's responsible for doing that, because otherwise we can get into the realm of you know, clunkily implemented bylaws that don't really work that well in producing the goals we're looking for, and may actually cost the various regulating bodies more than they're gaining in permit fees. So um, that's my 2 cents on. I'd like to see us bring those folks in and have a review of how it's working and what their plans are for improvement.
Okay, so noted. And I see Mr. Vore, Dr. Vore, have joined us. Your uh, phone is on mute, so if you unmute that, you'll be able to respond. Thank you for joining us. I will give you
I'm not muted anymore.
there you go. I'll give you a quick review. We did start at your appointment time at 5:45, and I understand you had trouble getting on, but we
Yep.
did run through the overview that you had sent originally, plus the follow-up you sent with the four um, separate items, the nicotine-free generation, the consensus of, I'll back up. We understand that this is in the purview of the Board of Health, and that you basically gave us the courtesy to run it through us to get kind of an opinion of what we thought, but it's nothing we need to or have authority to vote on. So we did kick it around in your absence, and I'll give you a quick overview on the nicotine-free generation. We were unanimous in not being in favor of that item. You can ask questions and get a thumbnail of why after. Nicotine pouches, the same thing. We were unanimous in our thought that this wasn't something that would be beneficial and difficult to enforce, although not something we object to doing, but the difficulty of trying to enforce it. On item 3, the tobacco sales permits location restrictions and number of permits, we unanimously thought that was a great idea, as we did also on item 4, the suspension period for sales to minors. As you noted, the second and third violations are already set, I believe, and it's the first violation that there wasn't a time frame in. So in favor of the last two, not so hot on the first two. So if you'd like to address them and or ask questions, feel free.
Yes, no, thank you so much, and I apologize again for being so late. Well, we received quite a few letters at various times over the previous couple of months from pros and cons. The business people are, of course, opposed to it because they don't want to lose their sales, even though they're a very minor part of their business. It's a real part. And then there's others who have expressed the feeling that more regulations was an intrusion on individual ability to function as a mature person and make choices. So that's where we are. Buckland has felt strongly positively towards these regulations, and we have felt that since we are since Shelburne Falls is really part of Shelburne and Buckland. You know, Shelburne Falls is kind of a fictitious place, but it keeps coming up, and we are sort of kissing cousins. And we thought that we should at least make an effort to have the same rules, and that made sense to me. But I welcome the opinion of the select board folks, people on this issue, because any guidance is helpful to me and to our Board of Health. I was a little taken aback a couple months ago when I found out that the board actually was empowered to make these regulations, since I didn't think of myself so much as a member of a regulatory board in that sense. But so we'll have another meeting. We'll study it a little harder. We'll talk uh, with Ron and Lynn and others and see where we stand.
Okay. I watch very closely the legal notices published every day in the Recorder about public hearings. I don't recall seeing one. Have you had a public hearing to get a
No,
sense?
it's coming up. No,
Oh,
we haven't gotten that far. We've been a little slow for a number of reasons, and one is because we were feeling our way along as to where to go with this.
okay. You also used the phrase Buckland seems in favor of or supports them. Did they actually enact them?
No,
Okay.
nobody's enacted
Okay.
yet. Not that I know of. I don't think so.
Good. Rod or Andrew have any questions for Mr. Bohr?
I don't.
Andrew.
Brad, I would just build on what Rick said, just to say that I think all of us are in favor of reducing nicotine addiction and would love to see that go nicotine free if that were possible. But the regulations that you suggested in the first two areas look to me anyway to be complex and difficult to administer. And my sense is that the health department is already challenged by some other regulations that are difficult to administer. And so it's important when you design a regulation to make it feasible on both ends of both the business being regulated and the regulator doing the oversight, and hopefully that the result of that actually produces the effect you're looking for. So I was just skeptical about whether that was true in the first two instances,
Thank you.
or would be true.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, we didn't think this up overnight ourselves. It was presented to us for consideration, and it was a fair presentation. So we're going to, and we'll get back to you guys as soon as we have further discussions and have a public hearing.
Terrific.
Great.
Thank you very much for what you sent. The second piece you sent with the four outlines was very helpful, and before we got to meet tonight. So thank you for that, and good luck with it. And we'll look forward to hearing what you do.
Thank you so much. Sorry again for being so late to the meeting.
Oh, no worries.
No
Night,
worries.
Fred.
Thanks. Bye.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Okay, and it is 6:02, our next appointment. We do have with us Francis Hall, Director of the Community Action. This is regarding the West County Food Pantry. We also have the Finance Committee on, who had questions at our previous appointment with regard to this. And in a nutshell, last year we used money. Did we use it out of ARPA?
No, housing trust.
Okay, so last year I think we did 20,000 to support. The town of Buckland did the same. Our finance committee told Community Action Pioneer Valley last year that it's probably the last year we'd be able to contribute, and suggested you start work hard on grants and so on, other funding sources. And according to your letter, you're working on that for sure. And this year you put in a request for half of what we did last year, 10,000. That would need to come from our housing trust fund. Appropriate and only place to take it from, but maybe not exactly how it's earmarked. But nonetheless, it can happen. We've done it before, obviously, for twice as much. But the Finance Committee asked about usage, and I'm not sure if it was you who sent the graph to us, but we do have it. Last year it came in a pie chart. This time it's in a bar chart. And in calendar year 2025, you're showing 85 participants in Shelburne, 44 in Buckland, 38 in Coleraine, 27 is empty, whatever that means, and 19 from Greenfield, and 18 from Ashfield, 16 from Charlemont. So there's a good number of towns that are utilizing this location. We are maybe ego says we're the hub of West County, but we're definitely a central location, and so it makes sense that you're located there and that other people would use it as well. But the concern was that last year and again this year by the Finance Committee and the Select Board, I believe, have the other towns been requested to contribute? We know that you have asked Buckland, and they said they can't contribute anything this year. But I know last year we asked you to reach out to Coleraine, the others that were in the pie chart that you gave us last year. Did that happen? That's my quick overview for folks listening to this now or the recorded version a little later. And so I welcome you, Francis, and if you unmute, we'd like to hear what you've brought additionally for us tonight, if anything.
Thank you, Chair LaPierre, and hello, Select Board members Baker and McBride. I'm Frances Hall, for the record, Director of Community Services at Community Action Pioneer Valley. And we have asked Coleraine again, and they have said, sorry, we do not have funds available. And we asked Buckland 2 or 3 times. And they also said, sorry, not at this time. So, and we are continuing to use the funds we've had in the past. We are always submitting grants for this program area. And as I mentioned in the letter, we've had some very dependable grant awards that we've gotten for many years, that in the last 2 years, I don't know if the demand is very high or what's happening, but we have not been successful in getting those grants, which range from $10,000 to $20,000. And obviously the CDBG grant sunsetting has been an impact as well. We have had successful fundraising efforts, especially with the government shutdown, and the SNAP benefit freeze in the fall did bring a level of, visibility to the resources in the community for food. And so we have had a number of donations this year, which is welcome and amazing. So we do continue to write grants. We always will. We always have. And we've very much appreciated the town's contribution where you're able. So I understand the reservations. And, Greenfield, I ran similar numbers for Greenfield, since Greenfield CDBG does support the operations down in Greenfield. And so their participation is a little higher, compared to the Shelburne versus all of the towns in the hill towns. But there still is also in Greenfield a lot of variety of residents coming. So was curious about that. So that's my initial answer. I'm happy to field other questions. And again, I'm happy to be
Great.
here.
Thank you for that. We did have an observation that a lot of the activity noted in the past has been people from Highland Village. And I believe we have like 46, 48 units there, something like that. And forgive me because I don't know the qualifications to be at Highland Village, but do those folks also qualify for other state-funded food programs as well, like SNAP benefits or other things like that? Are you aware? I'm not, so I'm asking.
I would imagine, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm not
All right.
certain either. If anyone else on the call knows, please.
Great. Andrew, any comments, questions?
Yeah, I do have a couple. Thank you, Francis, for giving us that, general response to Rick's ask there. The other question that we raised at our last meeting, in addition to are there other towns contributing, is if Shelburne is really the only town contributing and we're contributing at half of what we did last year, if we were to go forward with this request, how are you managing to keep the ship going with, three-quarters of your funding going away in 1 year, from the towns. So I didn't, in your first presentation, we didn't get a sense of, really how the budget was being put together and what level of operation would be happening there.
Yeah, we thank you, Select Board Member Baker. We are committed to being there. So I'll say that on the
Mhm.
outset. Um, Thankfully, the rent is pretty low there. As I mentioned in the letter, we have had to decrease the number of staff we have for the program. Um, but we, it's the rent at Cal Gym's very affordable. Thank you to the towns. And we we've had some generous donations come through the food bank, which has meant that we have a budget with the food bank to buy foods at a lower cost, which has really helped our food supplies. And again, as I mentioned, the donations that have come in have been incredibly helpful. But we've also scaled back our budget, so we have fewer costs to keep the program going. And Cal Gym operates about 3.5, 4 hours each week on Wednesday. So, and then we're open in Greenfield on 3 days of the week. So we, it's our overall operating budget for the program is $320,000 per year. So we have, managed to kind of piece it together, which is kind of a non-answer answer, but certainly with donations recently have been very generous, as I mentioned. And we just continue looking for those smaller family foundation grants in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. So we just submitted two, I'd say, in the last 2 or 3 months. So our resource development folks keep plugging away.
Good.
Well, I would say just as one select board member that while the using the housing trust fund money is certainly an eligible expense and the cause is a worthy one, my general preference would be to see housing trust fund money used for affordable housing purposes, which is kind of what it was designed for. But in a pinch, I think this is certainly eligible and worthy. It's worthier, in my view, and in many of our views, when it's a group effort and it's not just Shelburne left holding the bag, which in this town and I mean in this region, we work in partnership with mainly Buckland, but also other communities. And so it's a little bit galling when they leave us with the bag. So, that's just one thing that makes it a harder
Mhm.
sell in towns that rely on those kind of
Yeah.
partnerships.
Well, and
The one other thing,
the operating cost, if I may, is far exceeds the $10,000 or even 20,000. So,
understood,
there are many
yeah.
sources helping to
Right,
keep it
right.
afloat.
But we are supporting it both in the rent that we offer and the I mean the rent level as well as in the contributions. And the one other place I would encourage you to take a look at is the private fundraising area. And I'm speaking as a contributor to community action. I notice when I receive your appeals, I can either contribute to the general fund or the heating assistance program, but I don't think there's a breakout for the West County Food Pantry. And one way you might do that is to partner up with the Mary Lyon Fund or something like that and and to do more West County based fundraising for a West County charity.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very good. Well, I think you've met the request, and I appreciate the information you brought us, Francis. And presenting it, and I agree with Andrew, a very worthy cause.
Yes.
Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
Select Board members.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
nice evening.
You
You
as
Bye-bye.
well.
Thank you.
Okay. Magically, I didn't see that. 6:15, we hit our appointment right on time for Angel Bragdon, our town treasurer collector. Thank you for joining us, Angel. And we have the health insurance for fiscal year 2027. How exciting. We did receive your Excel sheet, which showed last year's health insurance and dental request at, I'll do round numbers, 300,000. And in 6 months, you're over half that already spent, which means we're going to be in the hole this year, which we all knew. So your request has gone from 2,900, $297,285 to $423,765 for fiscal year 27. And so I think what we were looking for in addition to other was, how did you come up with that number?
Well, I have a list of all the employees that are currently on the plan. The Hampshire Group Insurance Trust gave their increase, which is 12.84%. When I first did the budget, they didn't know what it was, so I had guessed 20. The number you read was the decreased version of it. And so I just calculated out what every person's insurance is going to cost for the year. I can, one increase from last fiscal year to this fiscal year is a new plan, the addition of the police secretary. So usually when I budget, I have room for an extra plan in case someone is added in the middle of the year. We don't have to scramble. So in FY26 budget, there was the room for the extra person. In the FY27 budget, there's room for the extra person plus the new person. So it's an additional plan. So that's part of the increase. And then in FY26, we had that big increase in October. So that's mainly why it's gone up so much.
Angel, can I ask a question?
Yep.
If the highway fulfills their full-time person that they're lacking, will that absorb the additional plan that you have?
No, I have a spot for that position.
Okay, so that position is assuming a family plan once they hire.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. And that would still leave us the cushion of one.
Yep.
Okay, great. Questions, comments for Angel? Finance Committee, we'll start with you.
Just a quick question. How many people are currently on the plan? How many participants?
We have 14 employees and 12 retirees
Okay.
on health, and then dental, it's 15 and 8.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Very good.
welcome.
Rod, Andrew, any questions, comments?
Just the general math there. When you're adding 12% to last year, are you just adding the 12%, or is the mid-year increase part of what's pushing it over 400,000?
It's 12% to the current prices, which includes the increase. So it's 12% in addition to the 20% that we already did in October. So compared to FY26's original budget, that's why it's going up so much.
The 20% wasn't in that 2026
So
request.
it's really more
Correct.
like a 32% increase then, right?
Right, it's the two added together, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would make more sense in terms of understanding what
Yeah.
makes up that big jump. Yeah.
Yep.
And the 12.48 is yet to come.
Correct. That goes into effect July 1st. Employees will see it in June because we pay the deductions for health insurance, we pay a month ahead.
Terrific. I think that answers all the questions unless someone else has more. And I don't see any. So, Angel, thank you very much for taking the time to join us tonight and give us that thumbnail. That's very helpful about,
You're welcome.
especially about the 20% and the 12.48
Yep. Yeah, double whammy.
to get us there. And I agree, very prudent to keep that one person cushion. That's definitely not crazy thing to be doing. I'm glad you've been doing it right along.
Thank you.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Thank you too.
Okay, our next appointment is for 6:30, and it is in fact a public hearing. So we should not begin that until 6:30, correct, Terry?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm looking at what might be, oh, this might be quick and easy enough. I'm going to, because we only have 9 minutes. Under any other business, I'd like to bring in an item regarding the Pocket Park. Because it is reasonably time sensitive. You may recall that we did the grading and the pathways in the Pocket Park, just barely beating snowfall, to the point where there wasn't time to seed and spread hay to cut down erosion. Which, if anybody's walked by it, you can see the streams that have been carved in it already and spilling out onto Deerfield Avenue. We're not talking a land mudslide here, but we're talking they just get deeper. So I think it is something that we should think about to protect the investment we've already put in it by doing something about getting some seed down and some hay cover to stabilize it until that can take effect to stabilize it. Specifically because we don't have any funds available to go beyond that. And we could find the money, I believe, in the highway department budget to get something that minor done because it wouldn't be expensive. But it's something that I thought we should look at and maybe consider. The highway department has that plastic web snow fence. They could close it off until the seed had time to start and then be able to open it up after that starts to take hold. But it just seemed like we're dropping the ball on money we already spent if we don't deal with saving or protecting what we've done so far. Food for thought. So that's why I thought I should bring it up tonight after seeing it this past weekend. Andrew.
I think that's a good suggestion, Rick. I'd be happy to talk to Jeff about that if you'd like. Or do you want a motion to move it in that direction?
If we have a consensus, we can just authorize you to tell him, please do it.
Okay. Yeah, no, it seems like a pretty small thing that will take effect once the sun starts shining and the grass starts growing. Yeah.
It's the right time of the year to do it for sure.
It is. I agree with you.
Okay.
One thing I will note, since we're on the subject of the pocket park, just as an FYI, is because it's on leased land, which makes it a little challenging to find grants that are eligible for that usage. One sort of serendipitous but positive outcome of the No Kings rally that took place there last week is there was a large crowd of people standing in that pocket park, and out of that collection of people, there arose a fair amount of interest in improving it and planting gardens and stuff. So I'm going to be meeting with a handful of interested folks who want to help raise some private money to do the kinds of things that we were not able to do in December. And with the trees and the gardens and the, you know, attaching of the stone benches that we purchased. So I think that is a doable project that perhaps we can delegate to some interested citizens to raise some money for.
Hmm. Well, I've not been involved in any scenario like that. Maybe you have before, but food for thought. We can look into it, whether there's any jeopardy or liability of letting people volunteer to go in and do it or not. I mean, it sounds like a great idea because otherwise it's going to be a grassy spot with some paths.
Well, I wasn't suggesting that people work on it, though that is something we could consider if the liability questions can be addressed, because I think we have developed somewhat of an understanding with Kay Cafasso about implementing her plan, which we were on the verge of doing last December. So I was going to have Kay meet with this group and see if we could create some synergy there. But just by way of context, we are engaged in similar kinds of partnerships, including with the Memorial Hall Theater, which is both a public and privately funded improvement effort. So we have plenty of precedents for engaging in with our interested citizenry and in throwing private dollars into the pot. Much as I just suggested, we might do more of with the food pantry up there, is do a better job of raising private donations, you know.
Well, interesting. Um, we'll see how that plays out, but for the time being, you have a consensus to reach out to Jeff and uh, instruct the highway department to seed and overseed and cover and fence off the areas so that people aren't walking. If you go there, you can see footsteps all over the gravel or all over the dirt, the soil. So if they can fence off those areas, I think it's all within current materials they have and should be very inexpensive and be able to be knocked off very quickly. So ball in your court on that one, Andrew. Okay.
Sure, no, I'm happy to talk with Jeff about it.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are getting close to our first appointment. I think I saw Chad was on.
Yes.
There you are. Yep. Very good. We, being a public hearing, Chad, will wait until 6:30, the advertised time for the public hearing. Yeah. Everything else, there's correspondence on the district-wide ballot vote. I don't know if there's any action needed on that, but we may not have time to bring that forward. Let's see. Actually, we can do one more, I think, pretty quick. Under any other business, we're going to bring in the Cowell gym change order rather. There is John Walsh has joined us. He's put this request forward to you. You have it in your packet. It's a change order from the window shade contractor to add window grates. Correct, John?
Correct. The grates are already existing. We took them down to install the shades. I failed to include them in the RFQ to reinstall the shades.
Okay.
So they originally awarded contractor was asking for $200 a window. I negotiated with them down to $100 a window.
Perfect. So we're talking about $1,000 additional sum to get them put back up once those are in the shades, and at half the price. Good negotiating. Thank you, John. And we don't want to leave them sitting off to the side and damage what's there, obviously. This amount of money was already covered in the original money set aside for the project. So
It's my understanding is that we do have some funds remaining in the Green Communities Grant to cover the additional cost. We did change the specification from a mechanical shade to not mechanical, but from an electronic shade, excuse me, electronic shade to a mechanical shade. So we've saved quite a bit from that perspective.
great. We are at 6:30. We're going to start our public hearing, and we'll get back to you after that. Okay, John?
Sure.
Thank you very much. All right, it being 6:30 p.m. on Monday, April 6th, I'll call and open to the public hearing for Chad Fluzinski, Hot Fire Grill LLC. This public hearing is requesting a change of location. I think we've all seen it in the paper, but Chad, why don't you give us the quick overview of what's happening here?
Yeah, thank you guys. So really, my lease was coming to an end, and I searched throughout pretty much every town from Northampton to Amherst to Turner's to Shelburne to keep my business going, and managed to find 10 Bridge Street for sale with a kitchen in it already, so that was nice. But unfortunately, it all needed to be updated, so we're in the process of that. But really, we would just like to transfer our liquor license from our current location and continue doing what we've been doing for the last 2 years at our new location.
And that would be first floor.
First floor, 10 Bridge Street. It is
Yep.
the ground level floor. Yeah, we're looking to do it all up there. We're unsure on our plans for downstairs as of now. I have a little bit of inspector parameters. Can't have a lot of people a lot of the time down there. So we're going to take some time to kind of consider what we're going to do with the downstairs, considering when I build places, I expect them to be busy. So I don't want to put a lot of people down there a lot of the time. So we'll look at that, but for now, the restaurant will be upstairs. That's all we're asking for the liquor license to be, is upstairs at the moment. If we move it to downstairs, obviously we'll adjust the license accordingly. But for now, just like I said, a main transfer of stuff.
Okay, so this is an on-premise all alcohol beverage liquor license. The request is to move from the current location of the Hot Fire Grill of 24 Bridge Street to 10 Bridge Street, as Chad has just given us the overview on. It is a public hearing. I'll open the floor to anyone from the public who's joined us tonight who would like to comment. Unmute and speak, or wave your hand if you know how to do that on your Zoom window. And I see none. Rod or Andrew, any comments or questions?
I have no questions.
No questions.
Finance Committee, you've joined us. Any comments, questions? I guess not.
No.
Oh,
They wouldn't typically weigh in on a liquor license.
they wouldn't typically name, but
Sorry.
they're
They
citizens.
can come and help me with my finances if they want.
Very good. All right. If there's no other comments or questions, I have none. I will close the public hearing at 6:33, and we will act on the request if there is a motion.
I move that we transfer the liquor license from 24 Bridge to 10 Bridge Street.
I second.
And the motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the matter to a vote. Andrew?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
And I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Congratulations, Chad, on the move into a place that old people like me still call the Franklin Restaurant, because that's where I was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that and railroad crossing, I've heard a lot of.
every
I hear a lot of food items and memories. It's been a
yeah.
nice warm flood for sure.
Well, great. And congratulations on the move, and you're all set on that transfer of the license.
Thank you, Rick. Can I just add real quick? I've been listening obviously along. Andrew, the steering committee is doing stuff just like this and have created like a portal to kind of pick and choose where you want to donate to. I don't know if you want to talk with Kate or Christian about that stuff, but there might actually be a hole for that pocket park right in that committee, if I may add to that, if I could.
Thank you. That's a great suggestion. And yes, I do work with Kate on a number of projects, so I'm sure she'd be happy to be in the mix on that.
I think so too.
Terrific.
Thank
you
you
very
guys.
much. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Back to Mr. Walsh, if you are still with us. There you are, sir. So the request of this change order, is there, I can't recall. Did we have, did I ask for comments, questions?
I think we
No.
were ready for a motion.
We were ready for a motion. Do we have a motion to approve this request as presented, the change order for reinstalling the, what do you call them? The window
Window
grate?
blinds or grates. Yeah, the
Great,
grate.
yeah, the
Window grate.
basketball greats, the basketball greats.
Ah, okay.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the matter to a vote. Rod,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
and I am I. Motion passes 3-0-0.
Thank
Thank
you.
For
Um,
catching that. Good job, John. Thanks
Sure.
for bringing it to us.
The current schedule is for them to go in on the afternoon of the 15th. And they should be completely in and the grates installed at the same time.
Fantastic.
And then just one other quick note is that the RFQ for the tab room has gone out to bid.
Super. Moving
Thank you.
forward. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, we will resume our regular meeting with old business. 49 Mechanic Street effort. You received in your packet. Well, originally Andrew sent 3 warrant article requests. Those got sent to town council at our last meeting to be dug into further. The town council sent back multiple pages of discussion about them for the process to declare property as declaration of the select board is required as surplus property and available for disposition. I found that particular note interesting because it made me think that if this move to change 49 Mechanic Street or to proceed with donating it for an affordable housing unit had passed at the last select board meeting, the last annual town meeting, that it might have been out of order and improper anyway, as the very first thing that needs to happen on this, as I understand town council's return of information, is the wording is to see if the town will vote to accept the declaration of the select board that 49 Mechanic Street, Shelburne, Mass. Is surplus property and available for disposition for affordable housing or take any other action relative thereto. The select board's never voted on that before, and that might be the first step that we need to consider. But we can talk about the different things that have happened here or that our attention has been called to of how complicated the process may be. There's a lot of information on a very short notice window of time to consider this, to get it on the warrant, and that part concerns me a bit, that every time I've made a rush decision because it's last minute, I've regretted it later. Not against affordable housing, even for a heartbeat. I'm in favor of doing the right thing. my personal take on these four, she took Andrew's three warrant request and split it out into four and put in the legal phrasing. The notations were that it was her recommendation that no public hearing had been held to get a consensus. If that's what the town wants the select board to actually declare that as surplus property, I would be hard pressed to take a vote to declare that as to declare it as surplus and available for disposition or disposal without having public input. We didn't get it last year, and then it sat idle until a few weeks before a warrant closes. So that's kind of made this hurry up rush thing. A survey has been drawn, which eliminated one of the questions so far, apparently, although it's a big discrepancy from our town records by 20 or 30%, I think. But if that is accurate and correct, then it would qualify as an affordable housing on a non-conforming lot for the town. So it did fail at last year's town meeting. There's been no public hearing for us to make a declaration of it that would allow us then to take it to town meeting. We did have an audit of our records, as we always do, and the auditors noted that we had something like $330,000 of tax title property and recommended doing an auction of them. That makes a whole lot of sense for me. So I had worked on this before in my first year on the select board. So I did pull real quick. I'll give you the quick numbers. I did pull the numbers of town-owned properties that we actually already completely own that could be used for affordable housing, could be used for getting back on the tax rolls privately, not necessarily for affordable housing, but whatever the townspeople wanted to vote to have happen. But there are 6 town-owned properties right now ready to auction. And there's about 6 others that are pending the legal process and the time frame that it takes to get that done properly. But when we look at 49 Mechanic Street, the town principal that we're in the hole is $49,425. The town interest is $83,666. There's money that the sewer district is owed on it, $3,515 for a total of $77,785 that we're in it already. And the request is to put in 23,000 more to start to get it prepped. Comments I've had, feedback are there is no agreement by Habitat or other vendor to actually take it if we did this. But the assessed value on that lot is $80,400. The town council did outline a process of selling it or donating it at below market value. That's a little complicated too. We don't have all the answers to that. So basically, to repeat what I started with, last minute, a lot of information, and I'm feeling rushed to try and absorb everything. So that's my 2 cents of how far I've been able to dig into it myself so far. But Andrew, this is what you brought forward. What's your thoughts and comments on what we received back from the town council?
I have a number of comments. You've raised so many issues there, Rick. It's hard to keep them all in order, but I have a fairly different perspective on whether this is a rushed process or not. Let me start with that by saying, did we hold a public hearing? Yes, we held a public hearing. It was called Annual Town Meeting, at which we discussed this project in length and voted upon it. And it was a tie vote, so there was significant public input on whether or not to proceed with those articles, most of which are fairly similar in presentation this time around as last time around. The one question being how to properly dispose of property. One question we have not yet asked Donna is whether or not your supposition that we would have been out of order had we passed it last year is in fact correct. It strikes me that it's quite possible that you could ask the voters whether they want to dispose of property first, and then upon hearing their answer, vote to declare it surplus or not, depending on how they vote. So it strikes me you could take that sequence in either order, declare it surplus first and word the warrant article that way, or ask the voters if they want to dispose of it and then declare it surplus once you've heard their decision. So there's a question for Donna, but it strikes me that either one would be an acceptable course of action. In terms of the assessed value of the property, that is completely fictional based on the fact that the lot is non-conforming and not buildable by a private market actor, who is the only person who would buy that property for $80,000. If you could develop the lot as a market rate housing development project, yes, it probably would be worth $80,000. But because the only way you can develop that lot is as affordable housing, it is not worth $80,000. And you would have to develop some arbitrary method of assigning a value to it, to perhaps a case in which there's only one developer who would accept the property if it were in fact deemed buildable. And if it is not deemed buildable, and if no developer accepts it, then the property, according to our assessor, is almost worthless and could be taxed at a rate of about $40 a year. So what I have been investing my time in, Rick, is trying to help the town avoid that outcome and produce a building upon that lot that can go back on the tax rolls and generate actual tax value that would slowly over time repay the investments that we have put into it.
Yep, I don't argue that a bit, Andrew.
But the assignation of values, whether it's the 49,000 plus the interest plus the other stuff, or the 80,000 in assessed value, you should stop thinking about those things. Those are not real values. Does that not seem clear to all the rest of you? Based on the bylaw that we passed? That those were prior values that had to do with a lot that once had a house on it that was owned by in the private market and taxed accordingly, and that was a long, long time ago. And those conditions do not apply anymore. So what we're trying to do, and with our other 6 lots as well, if somebody would take the time, as I have with this lot, to actually try to help it generate value for the town, is to begin that process of assessment with the other properties that we own, not based on these fictional values that had to do with their prior existence, but with what they can be used for now. So, for example, the 2 small non-conforming lots down on Main Street that Habitat has said they are not interested in, which may have no affordable housing developer to use them. One thing I would explore once we dispose of 49 Mechanic Street, and I can stop thinking about 49 Mechanic Street, is to ask the select board, well, maybe we should invest a little bit of money in putting those two lots together down on Main Street. Because if we did that, they might become a conforming lot that we could then auction off on the public market as a developable lot by an actual homeowner who would pay taxes on them and not be limited to just having them be developed by affordable housing developers who are not interested in those lots.
Well, one of those lots is listed as buildable. The other is it would need a survey in the town record at the moment. So one of them is 2.5 acres and is considered buildable of the two on Main Street. But I agree, it's 2.5 acres, but about 100 feet back of flat and then mountain. So
So if you
combined,
put them together, you might have something worth selling to somebody.
exactly. I think that's
Yeah,
where it's most value. In fact, it does talk about preparing for the both.
right.
Uh, so
So
yeah,
those are just my general comments on how to begin the process of assessing and disposing of our tax title properties based not on fantastical notions of their value, but hard-headed assessments of what can you do with them now.
well, I think that we are absent. We are absent a town government function that can pull that off.
Well, I've
But
been doing this for the last 3 years with 49 Mechanic Street.
I
Thank you
understand.
very much.
I understand you have. What I'm saying is we don't have a department to which we could charge this to attack that kind of effort for 6 properties. And the recommendation is that we, what other towns do, put them to an auction house. And when we talked to an auction house previously, they said, don't do them onesie, put them all together and you'll have better results with an auction to bring people to look at multiple properties. So to me, this isn't something that should fall to the select board. Like, we try to have a life and we try to get stuff done. But our role, in my opinion, would be to say, yeah, we're sitting on assessed value of $593,000 of property,
Why,
which
why are you still talking about that, Rick? I just
if
let
you
it go, okay?
if you'd
That's
listen,
not a number. That's like Santa Claus.
if you would listen, you'd let me finish the sentence. We have an assessed value at that $593,000, which may only bring in 30,000, 40,000, 50. We have no idea what it'll bring in. We're allowed to set a minimum on each property, put them to an auction house that does this for municipalities on a day in, day out basis, and get these things back on the tax roll at whatever level they can. They were there when I came on the board 3 years ago, and they're still there. So I'm saying not only Mechanic Street needs to be dealt with, all of these need to be dealt with, and to put them in as a batch is an option. Am I demeaning what effort you've put into this? No, not for a minute. I'm just saying what's best for the town of putting these back on the tax roll in some fashion. This one, I know that town meeting did approve the bylaw to reduce the required frontage to make that specific lot eligible. So that is an indicator to some degree of support for it too. I don't consider that a public hearing at our last town meeting. I think that's a stretch. And I think putting it on this year's warrant and considering it a public hearing to get input as to whether the town supported a declaration by the select board of it being a surplus property, I don't think that's not the role of the annual town meeting warrant, in my opinion. I think that's something where you hold a public hearing, the public consensus is such and such, we put it to a vote, and we as the select board, with all of our information and investigation done, make a decision of declaring it and then bring it to town meeting makes a whole lot of sense. But you and I will probably not agree on that. I think it's a stretch to consider last year a public hearing on it because people didn't go there expecting to be able to walk up to the mic and debate one item like that in an annual town meeting, which is there for a whole lot bigger fish to fry in the annual town budget. But Rod, any comments from you?
I'd like to hear what the finance committee has to say.
Terrific. Finance Committee is on with us this evening.
Okay, we're here.
We're here now, yeah.
Sorry to throw it into your lap.
Pardon me? Oh, sorry.
You don't look sorry, just for the record, hey?
No, I am.
I guess I was just surprised with the whole thing. I hadn't heard anything about it until the last select board meeting when we joined. It was news to us, so we didn't even know any of the stuff was going on behind the scenes. We got the information the next day, and after looking at it, one question I did have was, so a survey was done last October. I looked back through the minutes, select board minutes, and I didn't see, and I could have missed it, but how did we pay for that? Where did that, we had to have come up with money for this survey that you guys were talking about last week somewhere. How did we pay for that? And
We've done a lot of talking in this meeting about private fundraising for the food pantry, for the pocket park, and for 49 Mechanic Street. That was privately paid for by donations from interested citizens in the town of Shelburne.
So it was kind of being worked on like behind the scenes then? Is that what you're telling us? I don't know.
Just as the pocket park and Memorial Hall theater renovations and, a number of other projects are developed behind the scenes, if you want to call it that. Yes. Those are public meetings too that you're welcome to attend if you want to help fundraise for improving the Memorial Hall Theater. But those are all things that happen behind the scenes, if you'd like to call it that.
Just didn't even know what was going on. That was my point I was making.
Again, if the review of these articles, if you look back to the articles that were presented a year ago, they're not that different.
Well, the 4 that she came back with are.
They have some adjustments to them, but they're procedurally providing a path that Donna considers better than the one we presented before. But they're in spirit are the same articles. So it's not like this is brand new stuff. This all came before the voters of the town a year ago. So you're proposing that this take another year to move through a process.
Rick, can I speak as a resident, not a finance committee member?
I don't know if we can do that. What's the appropriate protocol?
Well, I have no idea.
It's not a public hearing, Jason.
I just haven't reached out to these guys, so I'm not. I guess I'll say as a finance committee member, I'll give my opinion, but I'm not going to speak for them. That I'm in favor of it, and as a owner of 2 houses on Mechanic Street, I also support it. I would love to see the right paths taken. I don't want to cut corners, and I think Donna would be able to answer whether, the way it's been spoken to, it considers a public hearing or not. And I think there should be a legal answer to that. I guess I would support you guys moving forward with getting it in front of the voters again. I think we have an insane need for affordable housing and just rentals in general in Shelburne. We have an insane amount of Airbnbs and regular B&Bs that seem to be sucking up a lot of the downtown housing. And I would be in favor of figuring it out. I think it's I think it's probably a disservice to lump it with the other 6 properties and wait to have a full study done on everything. Since there is movement on this one, there's no reason, not to move forward. And it will get it back on the tax rolls, if Habitat takes it on. And the 6 or 7, I don't know if it's 6 altogether or 7, including this one, are likely to sit there, if there's not a whole lot of energy behind the bulk of them going. So I think I'd be in favor of moving it along.
Okay, so you did say you are a member of the finance committee, is that correct?
As of today-ish, yes.
Great.
I am a
Did
new
the
member of
moderator
finance
appoint
committee.
you? Because I haven't received word of that.
Yeah, Roland did. He was supposed to send letters out today, but the town office was closed, wasn't it? I called to see if
No.
oh, I called your extension twice and I called Joe's extension twice to find out if you had gotten the letters yet. But
No, I
so
haven't
I may
received
not be an
anything.
official member, but Roland reached out to me and asked me to join. And he said he was going to get the appropriate stuff across. So I may have
Okay.
misspoken as a member.
Well, just until
Soon to
you're
be member.
sworn in by Joe, don't take any votes tonight.
Yeah, we're not voting on anything.
All right.
Any
So I
other
just have
comment?
one question though. Is the big hurdle here having it actually being a meeting where the voters, like what would hold it up too much if we did a vote? That can we get it to a vote where the voters can if the council doesn't think that it was appropriate last year, when can we do that again?
Oh, no, town council didn't think it was inappropriate last year,
Okay,
but because this property may be conveyed to a nonprofit, she felt that the board should declare it as surplus property first. So that it's
Okay.
not contested later on. So that was
Okay.
one of her suggestions. It certainly can go on the warrant this year if the select board feels it should be moved forward.
Any
And I
other?
agree with Andrew that we probably should, I don't know, either vote to convey the property first and then declare it as surplus. Either order, I think, would get the job done.
So Donna's suggested item 3, she didn't put them sequentially, but item 3 would if the select board, let's say tonight, voted to declare 49 Mechanic Street as surplus property available for disposition, then we could put item 3 on as the first warrant item on the town warrant to see if the town will accept that declaration. And that would then let it move forward. The other option that Andrew suggested was ask them if they want us to declare it as surplus property, and then ask them to accept that declaration. Seems convoluted, I guess, but
No, that's not what I said, Rick. I was just
All right.
saying, had we passed the warrant article last year, we could have then declared it surplus afterward, which is what Terry just said.
but the town would need to vote the acceptance of the declaration, according to her wording, Andrew.
If you word it that way, if you word it the way we worded it last year, they would have been voting to dispose of it and then declare it surplus afterwards.
But this is the
There-
wording town council sent back.
Right. So if we do what the town council is suggesting, then I agree with you, Rick. Let's put that first.
Put it first to
The voters.
recommend that the select board declare it.
No.
Really?
The select board the select board can declare it surplus tonight if you choose.
Yep.
And by doing so, then that article would go on the warrant, asking the
That's right.
voters to accept that declaration. And then
Accept.
we'd move on to the next one about conveying.
Right. Item 4 would be the second item on the warrant. So yeah,
Yes.
I understand the process clearly. The question is, do you want to put it to a vote for us as a select board to declare it? in order to put it on the warrant the way the town council said we should do it.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Let's vote on it.
So we would need a motion to,
Can I just ask one question?
yes, Rod.
Would the $13,000 and $10,000 figure here on 1 and 2, would affordable housing take it if we didn't spend that money? I don't understand why we would want to be
No.
spending money for them, doing all their work for them.
No, I've spoken with Habitat, and they would like to see the property be offered to them in buildable condition as a buildable lot.
So we
They
would
don't
have
want to
to tear
accept
it.
a lot and then find out that it's not buildable. So the pre-development work is on us to do as a, and that is part, Rod, of creating affordable housing. If you think
I have a
about
problem
what
with us
is
spending all the money. And
right, so what do towns do to create affordable housing? They write down part of the cost, and that's either the land cost, the pre-development costs, or in some cases even the down payment and other homebuyer costs. But you're basically talking about how do you take a housing, when the average house that's built in our region costs 350 to $400,000, and what the average homeowner can afford is maybe $250,000. How do you close that gap? That's $100,000+ of difference between what people can afford these days and what it costs to build a house.
Yep.
That's the affordable housing crisis that we are
I
in as
understand
a
that part, but
nation.
it just seems
So
like
so towns actually take that upon themselves in a variety of methods. Sometimes it's using the CPA funding. Sometimes it's using community development block grant funding. Sometimes it's using town tax dollars to say, we want young families to move into our town and be able to afford to live here. How do we do that?
We have a quorum, 3 members of the Finance Committee with us tonight. If the Select Board moves this forward by declaring this as surplus property available for disposition, the end goal would be to appropriate $23,000 to make it happen. As you saw in your packets, 13,000 from the trust fund to clean out the demolition of the small barn that's there, and 10,000 for other pre-development work, primarily, as I recall, it's the environmental study. Is that right, Andrew?
There's a phase 1 environmental assessment. There might need to be, and there's the wetlands delineation that the Conservation Commission has asked for. Even if there's not a wetland in the area, we still have to delineate it for them. And there may be other pre-development things. I should note, though, that of that $23,000, that if the voters approve those motions, or those articles, then we would proceed in order of priority to knock off those tasks, and we would not proceed any farther than any of those tasks would allow us. So if the phase 1 assessment comes back with toxic waste underneath the house, that's pretty much the end of it right there. We don't spend any more money. And if the phase 1 assessment comes back clean, then we move on to the Conservation Commission. And if that comes back positive, we move on to the demolition project. But we don't spend that money until we get answers. And so it remains in the Housing Trust Fund until we take it out to use it to move the process forward.
That does make a whole lot more sense.
that
So-
definitely.
The voters got to approve and spend that money.
Rick,
I have a-
I've got one question.
Yes.
Do we have any commitment from Habitat or another developer to develop the lot if it passes these tests?
Yes. Not in writing, but they have indicated that they are interested in the property if it is rendered in buildable condition.
Could they give that to us in writing?
Do you want it in writing?
I'm afraid we're gonna spend another $23,000 on top of the 80,000, whatever we've already spent, and then have somebody look at the lot and say, oh, we can't build there.
That would be helpful for voters.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
Habitat
looking
has
at-
been looking at that property for over a year now.
They take 10 minutes and write us a letter.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not on,
That would be helpful for voters who are making a vote on
It's
it.
not a
If
big
they're gonna
ask.
take it.
You know,
Sure.
something that, not necessarily that they commit absolutely to do it,
No,
but that
their
they have looked at
intentions.
the lot,
Yeah.
they see it as being developable, and they would be interested in developing it in writing.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Just
I
their
can
intent.
ask them for that letter.
Yeah, the last I saw, Jim, was an email that used the wording, if all these other things get done, the board was willing to consider it. That was a phraseology in the email that I have from them. So I think a letter that makes it a little more committed, makes a lot of sense.
Ask them to do that consideration now, assuming that things are come out positive.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if the lot is rendered to them in buildable condition, I mean, they still have to take it forward through other permitting, including getting a special permit for it. So they're on the hook, to go before the zoning board and get the lot, get the permit for the lot.
But they have not yet committed to doing one bit of this.
Well, because the lot is not buildable yet.
They can
We
commit.
we have
say
to knock
they-
off those tasks in order to make the lot buildable.
Then we need commitment from somebody that says they're going to build it if we spend this $23,000.
Yeah, I think the most I could say if I was a Habitat board member is I would take it to the zoning board for a special permit. Right? Because it's the zoning board that's going to ultimately be the final gatekeeper there, right?
If it's a buildable lot, how can they say no?
Well, but you still got to get them to say yes, right?
Not if
Why,
it's-
why can't you just file for a building permit on it?
There's no
It's not a
variance
by
needed.
right project, Jim. It's a special permit project. That's what our
It's
zoning
something
bylaw
for-
says.
Once you get past all these steps,
It
they'll.
said by special permit.
Yes.
Because it's non-conforming.
Ah.
So it's only buildable for affordable.
Right, but that's what the bylaw says. It doesn't say you have to get a special permit to do it.
I think it
The
does.
bylaw allows it.
Okay.
Well, okay. Well, we can look at that more closely, but I was under the impression that the bylaw required a special permit.
Interesting. Well, I don't think we should be going to annual town meeting asking the town whether the select board should declare it that. I think we should make that decision on our own and go in to town meeting with a select board vote declaring 49 Mechanic as surplus property with the following conditions that we've outlined, or not bring it there at all. It just doesn't seem, it seems contrary to the suggestion of town council that we pay to tell us how to do it right.
I agree, Rick. I will make that motion.
Okay.
And I will secure a letter from Habitat saying whatever it is they're going to say. And we'll bring that to town meeting.
Is there any negative to declaring it surplus, Rick? Or-
Jason, is that Jason talking?
Yes.
Yeah, is there any
Jason,
negative to
Jason, stop.
declaring?
Jason, you can't talk. When you're sworn in and a member, it's protocol. We stick to the rules. Appreciate you're volunteering to join.
I would assume in a select board meeting, the public could speak to this.
We have a place at the end for public to speak, and we'll gladly listen to you then if you want. But I don't think you should be involved in the debate, as Terry said, until you're sworn in. You're not an official member as yet. But I'm glad here and listening and participating, but let's continue to listen. So we have a motion on the floor. Is it seconded?
I missed the motion. Is it to declare the property?
Surplus.
The
Okay, thank
motion for
you.
the
And to seek a letter of interest from Habitat.
Okay,
as surplus property and available for disposition, the wording
Right.
that town council supplied us.
Right.
So do we have a second? For the purpose of going to any further discussion and putting this pain in the butt to bed, I will second the motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the matter to a vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Rod,
No.
I'm very uncomfortable with the whole thing. I'm going to say no as well and put this forward to another meeting if we can make it in time. If we can't, then we'd have to reconsider the wording. But there's just so many things with the 6 things outlined by a town council with concern of how to do the process that I'm going to pass on it at this time. So the motion is defeated. 1 yes, 2 no, no abstention.
So, Rick,
Yes, Andrew.
in terms of moving forward in the process, it seems there are a couple of options. You had mentioned that you wanted to perhaps bring this forward to another town meeting, another select board meeting prior to town meeting to consider it further. Is that what you're suggesting?
I was suggesting I wish we could. I don't know if we can based on the closing of the warrant, but I think that's happening this Thursday, which
we
is
will be meeting on the 13th, and that decision
13th.
will have to be made.
On the 13th?
13th.
Yes, that's when we're going over the warrant, the whole budget.
Perfect. So
So I wanted to bring forward to get your advice, Terry, on the process of petitioning this onto the warrant with different language. If it does not have the select board's support as a declaration of surplus property, we could perhaps petition it onto the warrant without that declaration and simply ask the voters um, to dispose of the property as affordable housing, to an affordable housing developer.
That you'd have to talk to Joe about. I'm not familiar with if the select board says no, how many signatures you need. All of that would have to be submitted by the 13th. Joe would have to have people in to certify signatures.
Okay.
But so if he's the one you'd have to talk to.
why don't you dig into that, Andrew? Get the letter that you talked about from Habitat. We're going to meet the 13th at the close of the warrant, and can see if that should be reconsidered at that point. Fair enough?
Yeah, well, if that process goes through that way, then Rick, that will not be up to us to reconsider. That will be a citizen petition.
Oh, yeah, correct. That's a different avenue. I was talking about the avenue we're on in this process when I suggested that we.
Oh, well, then that would be in your court to follow in terms of what would we be discussing on the 13th that would be acceptable to you since you voted no tonight?
I think that having the letter that you say you can get in hand, I think having more time to study these 2 pages, 3 pages of email from Donna, follow-up questions to her, You brought some up yourself. We'll have the opportunity to decide at our next meeting whether we should reconsider this vote. But for now, I'm just
Okay.
feeling uncomfortable. So much information, so short window of time.
Well, we
So
did have 2 weeks to review this.
from Donna's letter,
Yeah.
it's been 2 weeks since our last meeting when we requested.
Yeah, and this information was was available at the last meeting, and we elected not to discuss it then because you had just received it. So that was 2 weeks ago.
No, we received Donna's
March
email
20th.
on March 27th.
You're
So
way off there, Andrew.
it's
March
been
27th.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it's 4 days later.
Well, it's Friday, March 27th. And today's the 5th. So yeah, that's pretty short notice for this much information.
Okay.
So all I'm doing is giving you a window of opportunity to be considered. I'm not shutting, I'm not closing my mind.
Okay.
That's
Okay. Well, I will go ahead and see what Habitat can generate in the way of a letter and get that back to you for the 13th. And and I'll explore with Joe what the petition process is if we need to exercise that.
That would be very helpful. Great. Okay, let's move on. New business. You have in your packet, Mohawk Trail Regional School District, a letter of an additional capital request for fiscal year 27. Again, oh my God, why can't people get their stuff together and get things in on time? Like for this, they did our presentation to us quite some time ago, and then here, very shortly ago, we get this new request for $42,649 expenditure of a capital request. And we all know how tight we are on budget, given the insurance increases and everything else that we've been dealing with from unforeseen repairs right on down the line. So we got to continue to do our fiduciary responsibility and pay attention to the town's dollars. Any comments, discussion on this particular letter from select board members or finance committee?
This is the one that puts us on the hook for about 8,000 of that $100,000 error. Is that correct?
No,
No.
this is
No.
for a new mower, 10 light poles, an electrical upgrade, and universal key system, none of which was mentioned during their budget presentation.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were dealing with this error that they found or whatever.
Actually, we haven't even started to deal with that yet.
No.
Yeah.
So this, again, if that letter is dated, that's in your packet, March 27th. A total capital request of $42,649. Buckland Shelburne Elementary School is where the universal key system would go, $32,894. On a building they're talking about abandoning in less than 5 years from now. Mohawk Trail Regional replace aged mower, replace 10 pole lights, $9,754. Total capital request, $42,649.42. Another one that I think all we need to do tonight is acknowledge receipt of that request and kick it around in our finance committee, select board, meeting on the 13th. That's an executive session, Terry?
No, that is a working session.
Session, on April 13th. Am I correct that we don't need to act on this tonight?
You don't have to act on it. I have built it into the budget, taking the funds from stabilization, but that's up for the board and finance committee to decide.
Okay.
Rick,
Yes.
I was involved a little bit with the capital projects working group there, so I'm a little bit familiar with where these items came from and what was being considered. There was a fairly long list of items that got pared down pretty quickly. There's just a few items at Mohawk and the two things at Buckland Shelburne. I told the group that I couldn't support any of it because none of these items are capital items. These are maintenance items. Capital is defined in the regional agreement. And how the costs are divided up is in the regional agreement. These are not capital items. They've established a process by which they're considering them capital and then charging the towns for these capital items in addition to their operating budget. Mohawk's been there for what, 50 years, more than 50 years. This is the first time a lawnmower has been considered capital. Now a lawnmower is capital. How many lawnmowers have we purchased in the previous 50 years? It's suddenly it's shifting operational expenses into the capital portion of the budget, so they can request those funds separately.
So, if
I
we,
would say one of my suggestions would be to consult the town council on whether these are capital or not, whether that definition of capital that's in the regional agreement, whether these meet that definition.
Actually, I have that right in front of me and they do not.
They don't meet the definition of capital.
They seem to be going by a capital costs operating procedure that can now be found on their webpage.
Correct.
So that's different than the regional agreement?
Must be.
What is it called again, Terry?
It's called their capital costs operating procedure. And it says in general, costs for projects in excess of 10,000 individually or in aggregate for which the district would normally expect to seek town approval for the issuance of debt will now be considered as capital costs.
And that was voted on by all 8 towns to change to that?
I have no
procedure?
idea. I would assume that it would be an internal policy.
sounds like it to me.
Do that?
I don't believe we have, no.
Well,
Do you have the letter with a link to that page?
I do.
Was this letter shared with the finance committee?
Yes, it's the March 27th letter.
Okay, so you all have that letter, and there's a link to that capital cost operating procedure page. But I hear what you're saying. Is the finance committee taken a vote, or do you want to venture a decision or a recommendation to how we handle this, or deal with it on the 13th?
But I'll just expand a little bit more on what I said there, Rick, is that capital is defined in the regional agreement, and the only way that can be changed is by vote of all 8 member towns.
Yeah, so.
They have changed it by rating an internal process. That is not correct. The only way the definition of capital can be changed is by a vote of all 8 member towns.
Do the other 2 finance committee members agree with that?
I do.
Yeah.
So if the decision lies with the select board to either approve moving forward with this request or rejecting the request, we have that recommendation. And if that's what we are charged with doing, we should deal with it.
We can make a motion to make that recommendation to you tonight.
To refuse the recommendation, or
We're at a posted meeting tonight. We can make a motion and communicate it to you that that's our recommendation on that item.
okay. So we have the select board's recommendation to not move forward with this request on this year's annual town meeting warrant. Andrew?
But the finance committee's recommendation,
I'm sorry, what did I say?
the select board.
Look, do you
Okay.
need a second on that?
I need a coffee maybe, but
I don't think there's been a motion yet. Rick was just saying he's heard the finance committee's
Okay.
recommendation.
I so move the Finance Committee's recommendation
that we not move this forward.
that we not move forward.
Is there a second? I will second for the purpose of discussion. Any further discussion? Andrew,
Well, I think in the same spirit that we've invited the various proponents of spending articles to come and speak to us directly, I think we should invite uh, either the finance director or the building and grounds director of Mohawk to come and speak to this request and give us their pitch on why we should fund this article.
in a perfect world, I'd agree with you 100%, but this is, again, a last minute thing brought to us without time to do that. And seems like something they could have included in their original presentation to us and dealt with it then and addressed these questions. We just didn't know this request was coming. So
Well, I agree. It's a rather late request, but if we're going to consider their side of it, we should hear them out. And
You're discussing a motion, remember that.
next meeting is our opportunity to do that.
Motion on the floor.
next meeting at, well, we do have discussion, Jim.
At the 13th.
Motions on the floor, we are discussing. The 13th, and again, to get in the middle of that with this kind of a discussion, it's just too late, in my opinion. What we're hearing from the Finance Committee is this is against the district agreement. If you use your example of others, we give them an opportunity to come in and make their pitch. They had their opportunity. They didn't bring us this one. But B, other people come in and defend their request that are proper and appropriate. This seems to be improper and inappropriate process as defined by our Finance Committee, and I agree with them. So, any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the matter to a vote. Rod?
Aye.
Wait a minute. We got a lot of deliberation. We're voting to support the recommendation to not move this forward. Correct? Okay.
Correct. I
And
vote not to move this forward.
Andrew?
My vote is no. If an aye vote is to recommend to not move this forward, then I'm voting no.
Okay. And I will vote yes. Motion passes 2-0, no abstentions.
No, it actually passed 2-1.
2-1-0.
2-1-0, my bad. It's been a long night. I'm fried.
And go to the beer.
Yeah. Any other business? Our next meeting
Too
is
late for that.
Yeah. Any other business? Our next meeting is April 8th. That's going to be the special town meeting at Town Hall, 6:30, I believe. And primarily financial account shifting to cover expenses appropriately. We dealt with the Cowell Gym. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is April 20th. That completes any other business.
Actually not. I
What's-
have one other item of other business.
What is
I
that?
have been reviewing the minutes of the last number of meetings since we began talking about annual town meeting, and I have not been able to find a confirmation of the date and location of our town meeting. Terry, can you clarify that for me?
Yes, the date has always been the second Tuesday in May, according to our bylaw, unless the select board changed the date. It's
Okay,
at the Town Hall Theater, and it's at 6:30 p.m. And it
Good.
is posted on our town website.
it is now on the website. Okay, I couldn't
It's
find
been
it.
on for probably 2-3
weeks?
weeks now.
Okay, good. I couldn't find it when I went and looked, but thank
can
you for
cover-
that clarification.
welcome.
I wanted to be sure because I was pretty sure that that was the case, so I put that out in a recent update of the Two Town News to remind people to put that on their calendars. But I just wanted to get confirmation that I was not speaking out of turn.
Nope.
You got it right. It is also posted in the foyer, which is the legal spot for it.
Okay.
I watched the constable sign it.
Well, that's the special town
I'm
meeting.
sorry,
The
that was the
annual
special,
town
yeah.
meeting has
That's
not been posted.
That's right. Good. Well, I'm glad that answered your question, Andrew. Any other business unexpected that I'm unaware of? Hearing none. Oh, Terry, I'm sorry I missed you.
Well, Andrew had raised a good point in an email. I believe I shared it with both of you on the Franklin County Tech Schools district-wide ballot vote. I think you were asking, Andrew, that perhaps a representative from the tech schools speak to that project at town meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to have them speak somewhere publicly, whether it's town meeting or a public hearing or public meeting. That my concern is that we've heard a presentation from the tech school about their Capitol building project, and we've seen sort of a pie chart with a breakout of the share of each town for that project. But they have not yet come forward and says, this is what you're on the hook for X number of years at X number of dollars.
I thought they did, Andrew.
I didn't hear it.
I thought the number was just under 250, 240,000 a year.
Yeah, I remember, yeah, one of our meetings.
Well, I can ask the superintendent, maybe not town meeting, because I think that's going to be a long one, but in advance of this vote, I think they should have some public forums.
Yep,
So that citizens are aware.
When they met with us and presented this, they had a slide that had those numbers for us, because they've also supplied the same numbers in their same presentation to Buckland, and I've confirmed that. Different numbers, but their numbers. So their presentation did include all that, but you're right. It was a
Okay. Oh, I would love to see that slide because the years and the dollars escaped me in that meeting, and I was thinking that would be important information for the voters to know about, is that here is for whatever it might be. Is it 15 years or 20 years of capital responsibility that you have at $250,000 and that you've got to factor that into your annual budget every year for the next 20 years. That would be good information for voters to know, especially as they're considering a similar project at Mohawk Trail.
I agree 100%. And they did use a PowerPoint slideshow, and it was one of those slides. So we should be able to request that be sent to us or a link to it if it's not available to be sent, and get those questions answered, because I agree. My memory was it was just shy of 250 a year for 20.
That's what I remember.
Good. Let's find that out. So I was closing up any other business. We jumped to correspondence, but now we've dealt with that, so we're golden there. We're at public comment. Finance Committee, Jason. Jason, did you want to? We're at public comment. Did you want to make any public comment this evening?
I think we're all set. He's in public comment. Jason, you wanted public comment?
Yeah.
Right.
Public.
I think I made my comment, although I might not, maybe I shouldn't have at that time. So I think my public comment came out when it was happening. I don't think I have any additional public comments.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me speak and not cutting me off.
No problem. Does anyone else who's on wish to make any public comment this evening? Seeing no one come forward, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Before that, can I just remind you that April 20th, I will not be at our meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Great. Motion to adjourn.
So
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I will second it.
Moved and seconded. We'll put the matter to a vote. Rod?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
And I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Got it right that time. Thank you very much. We're adjourned at 7:38. Have a good evening, all.
Good night.
You too.